Uh-oh, sorry.
What's up, War Report family? We are here with the War Report special on a Monday. It's Monday, right, B? It's Monday. It's
It's
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Monday, November 28th at 4:15 Eastern, 3:15 Central. It appears as if Auburn has finalized details that will make Hugh Freeze the next coach of the Auburn football team. We're here with instant reactions. We're going to be with you guys here for a little while to talk about it, get your feedback on this one. It feels like a really polarizing hire, guys.
Yeah,
Um,
I really want to just hear from them, but go
yeah.
ahead, man.
Yeah, I really want to hear from everybody. So, Auburn had a number of candidates that were in the running for this job. Everybody from the quarterbacks coach at the for the Eagles to Fickle and all these names, but ultimately Hugh Freeze looks like he won out.
I got an email yesterday asking me if I wanted to come interview. So, I turned it down because I didn't know who I'd be working for.
same, same. I think I got the same email. But yeah, it looks like Hugh Freeze is going to be the next coach. We're here for your reactions. We're going to share some thoughts as news continues to break on this subject. The university has not officially made an announcement, but some notable and prominent media members are starting to pick this up, saying that Hugh Freeze is going to be the next coach. So while we're here, if you can't jump in the chat, it's because you're not at least a subscriber. So we're limiting this to subscriber only to keep the trolls out and keep this family business. Other than that, listen, guys, these random lives in the middle of the day can keep happening. If you guys want to support,
Yeah.
join up, become a member, $5.99 a month for a Patreon membership. To help support the work we're doing at the War Report. Hopefully, we'll be bringing you interviews by Cohen and Freeze shortly after this. We're going to be working on getting you guys that content so you can hear directly from those involved in this hiring about how this is going to go.
But know this. There will be some Hugh Freeze watch the film sessions coming
Yeah.
with your man Ike Jones, but you got to be a patron to see that stuff. I'm gonna be letting those things go over these next couple weeks.
All right, let's talk narratives here. So there were a number of narratives about why to hire Hugh Freeze and why not to hire him. A lot of the detractors pointed to the fact that he was under 500 in the SEC and his record in his time at Ole Miss. So a lot of the pro Hugh Freeze people point to what he was able to do with Liberty, beating some Power 5 teams with lesser talent, taking Malik Willis and turning him into a third-round pick. At one point, they were talking about Malik possibly even being the first quarterback off the board. He had shot so far up. So it seems as if Hugh Freeze is still the developer of talent that he once was. But overall, as a coach, again, Liberty season filled with some great wins, but some also very disappointing losses. They ended the season on a sour note, getting blown out by New Mexico. What do we think about his ability to succeed in the SEC? Right? Is this a Hugh Freeze right now that could come in and challenge in the SEC West with so many good coaches? Brian Kelly taking LSU to the championship game in year one. Mike Leach turning in I don't know, like an 8-win season, and then his counterpart at Ole Miss turning in an 8-win season as well. And then Jimbo Fisher, who's making more money than anybody, but at the bottom of the league, right where Brian said they would be. Guys, what do we think? Can he succeed in the SEC West?
Yeah, he can. He can succeed in the SEC West. I've had a lot of fun listening to all of the arguments back and forth today. Honestly, not having a coach may be the most entertaining thing that could happen for us. I mean, shout out to everybody in our chat arguing this past weekend. Everybody on Twitter arguing. It's a lot of fun. I've heard a lot of good arguments. There are some things that don't make sense when you're talking arguments because everybody acting like you quote the guy's record and that's who he is while removing where he's at and what he has to work with from the conversation. Context is lost. That's a terrible argument. The idea that a guy is only as good as what he's done in the past, so you should judge him based off what he's done in the past, that's also a terrible argument because I don't think anybody who won a national championship at a school won one for the first time. Did they win one before that? Like, if you're saying I need to hire you based off of your track record,
right?
then we got to go. That's why Urban Meyer was always brought up in Bob Stoops, and people who liked Hugh Freeze or didn't like Hugh Freeze was saying, oh, well, look, this is all he's done. And I'm not telling you that he's a good coach. For the record, this is be Will for the record. I don't know. I have no idea where this is going to go. Okay. I have no idea. I see the pros, I see the cons, and the biggest con is what it's going to do to the fan base and the support for the team. But acting like he is only the sum of what he's done at Liberty is just it's a huge fallacy. Or he's only what he's done at Ole Miss. You can get to a better place and do better work having learned from your last few stops. That is completely possible. It is always possible. I was looking up today. There was a coach at I guess you could call it a group of 5 school at the time. He went 11-1, 11-2, 11-2, and then got a Power 5 job. By record, he was the best candidate in the nation by far. That guy was Rich Rodriguez. He ended up being a dud of a head coach. He is now at Jacksonville State after falling off the mountain from Michigan. His record said he was going to be outstanding because he won big where he was at. He beat better schools, and he was in the conversation for a national championship at West Virginia. However, that wasn't the sum of who he was as a coach. He got to a bigger place, a different place, different expectations, more to work with. Pressure got to him. His system got old. I don't know, however you want to frame it. And then he fell off the map. What you have done prior does not dictate what you're going to do going forward. Now, having said that, I don't think you can look at Hugh Freeze's record at Liberty or at Ole Miss and say that A, he absolutely is going to kill it, or B, he's absolutely going to fail. Right. Anybody saying either one of those two things is fooling themselves, and you just like them or don't like them for whatever reason. We don't know. Do I think he can? Yes. The reason I think he can win big here right now, Auburn is determined not to be the laughingstock anymore. And this hire, more than anything, tells me that everybody who had some skin in the game behind the scenes said, we're not going to miss on what we want again. And what comes along with everybody getting what they want is they're going to put every ounce of everything behind it, because now they have to justify their decision by making sure this guy wins, so it doesn't look like even more of a debacle than it looks right now. The only way to wipe the slate clean or get the bad taste out of some people's mouths, and it will never be everybody's mouths. Some people will never be happy with this hire for their own reasons, and they are perfectly justified in having those reasons. It will change some people's minds if we turn in a 10-win season 1 or a 8-win season 1 or 10-win season 2. Now people start to forget. No negative news. You haven't been DMing nobody. The facility's open. NIL's about to boom. Offensive players got their eyebrows raised, and the transfer portal is filling up with talent right now. The table is set for whoever Auburn hired to succeed, and the people who have been making these decisions will make doubly sure that no stone is unturned to make sure that he has what he needs to win big in very short order, which is why I think he probably will.
Ike, is this who Auburn wanted, or is this just who they could get? Right.
I think it's a combination. So from everything that I've heard, I sincerely believe the plan was Lane Kiffin initially.
Right.
But I also think Hugh Freeze was number 2 on the list. And in their mind, they weren't going to have to go past number 2 because they knew there was a mutual interest from Hugh coming back the other direction. So if they didn't get Lane Kiffin, they couldn't come to terms on a contract that they wanted to go with, or he felt comfortable leaving Ole Miss, they knew they could get the guy that they wanted number 2 on the list, which was Hugh Freeze, because they knew he wanted to be back in the SEC desperately. And Auburn is a good situation for him to be in as far as being able to get the resources that he needs to be able to compete. So I don't think I think their plan was go after Lane. If it doesn't work, we're going to go get Hugh. And that's what it ended up being. It just, I think, got delayed a little bit because of the backlash. When the news broke, there was a lot of uproars. They're like, oh, we can't announce that today. Let's hold off a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't think they ever moved off of Hugh Freeze from all of the backlash. They acknowledged it, went and did a little bit of, hey, how do we really want to roll this out? And then said, yeah, this is the guy we want. And here we are.
Yeah. My personal feeling, based on the whispers that I heard about there being kind of a booster movement to go get Hugh Freeze like mid-season. This feels like a booster hire.
Mhm.
This
No,
feels
yeah, I
It was a
think
booster hire.
I think Cohen had a list that included Hugh Freeze, and the fact that the boosters liked him bumped him up the list.
Yeah. Well, I think he was on Cohen's list because the boosters liked him. But hey, listen, guys, we want to hear from you. Let's get to some super chats here. Jazzy Joe says, "Let's go." Hey, is this mic on? He meant MIC. Let's go. O'Caddy is staying too. Let's go. Hopefully he retains Cadillac. It would be wildly unpopular for him.
All
in his
preliminary reports that I've heard is that part of his pitch and plan was the retention of Cadillac on his staff.
He should be associate head coach if you ask me.
Yeah.
But we'll see what they decide to do there. Cleveland Brown says, "Freeze the AU, LFG, winter is coming." See what you did there. Bankroll, Block Guys, "This is one of the best feelings I've had. Woo, cry haters, cry." He said, "Roll tears, roll." How can we hire someone who has allegations at 3 other institutions? Absolute disgrace to the Auburn family. Listen, we're going to get into this a little bit. This is real. I don't like to talk about rumors and things that can't be confirmed, but certainly there was some smoke around this hire for non-football reasons. And I will say this: I didn't see anybody else clamoring to hire Hugh Freeze. Right. So this is another reason why I think this is a booster hire. SS Austin, we actually are going to have a good offense and good QB play. Also, his teams play both sides of the ball. We back y'all. War Damn Eagle. Guys, listen, to this comment, that offense, if you're going to make this hire, the offense better be damn near prolific, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you bring him in to do, is to revolutionize what you're doing on the offensive side of the ball, because we haven't had a good offense in a long time.
Yeah, I still think he'll do wonders with Robbie Ashford, just my opinion. Jazzy Joe, they ain't fans if they don't support the team. We've talked about this as well, too. Like, regardless of who you prefer, choose Auburn, right? And try to put aside the professional from the other guy. I know that's hard to do for some people. Joe Kyle, how is the locker room going to accept Freeze? I think just fine.
I've heard nothing but positive out of the locker room from people who I've talked to.
Yeah,
they're excited, especially the offensive guys. They're excited about it.
Yeah, I think they'll accept it just fine. So, there were some people who I know in that locker room that was hoping that Brian Harsin's successor would be Hugh Freeze. So those people got their wish, certainly. I want to appreciate JoJo's one of our premium members. Seth, not thrilled by this hire, wanted Prime. Hashtag, at least it's not Kiffin. Seth was not a Kiffin fan, clearly. This is about where I'm at. I'm not exactly thrilled by this hire, but I'm not going to sit here and act like the guy forgot how to coach football either, right? So with the resources be like you were talking about, it could be a really good hire. I don't think we could hold that against them. We got 666 viewers in here. Let's get some more. We don't want to stay on that number. James Stallings, what people are overlooking, why I'm excited, is the chip he probably has on his shoulder is the same chip, just like Auburn. Let's go. Or maybe similar to what Bruce Pearl. This is the only way I will compare him to Bruce Pearl, right? As you come in with something to prove, being given a second chance at life at coaching at this level. He's going to have to keep his hands clean, guys. I'm like, any sniff of a scandal is going to be jumped all over by the national media. So hopefully they are prepared for that. Cody Smith, let's go to work. War ready. It's time. I am kind of happy that this didn't drag out until the end of the week.
Yeah.
Right. With national signing, early signing day. Getting a coach before SEC championship, I think, helps bolster recruiting. So we'll see. Guys, we're still committing to Auburn, even in spite of, us not having a head coach and pretty much understanding that it wasn't going to be Caddy. So this will be interesting to see. Keep the comments coming, guys. If you're watching this and you can't comment, it's because you're not a subscriber. So subscribe to the War Report. If you want to go a step further and support the work that we're doing, become a member. $5.99 will help support the work that we're doing here, bringing you guys lives at 3:30 Central on a Monday about Auburn's reported new head coach, Hugh Freeze. How does he say, if you're ranking SEC West head coaches, where does Hugh Freeze rank?
That's a hard question because he
That's why I
hasn't.
asked it.
I mean,
hasn't
well,
been
I mean,
down here.
the reason why I hesitate to put anybody who hasn't, like, he's coached in the SEC before,
Mhm.
but I hesitate to put anybody high on that ranking that hasn't done it in their current role, is because there's so many things that go into play with how people are perceived as a head coach, not whether or not they can coach. I think on his coaching ability, he's top half, right? Like,
Right.
what what's the guy's name in Clark Lee at Vanderbilt? He seems like he's going to be a phenomenal coach, like, but he's at Vandy, right? So it's like,
Right.
how do you juxtapose those things? Shane
Right,
Beamer
right.
seems like he's a really good coach, but he's at South Carolina. So, like,
Right.
where do you put his coaching ability versus what he can do with where he is? Like, Kirby Smart seems like the genius of the entire world, best coach in college football, but he's landing top recruiting classes every single year. Is he a great recruiter's defensive mind genius, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Got Todd Monken in there as an offensive guy. So it's like, Kirby seems like he's a good program builder. You got to put him up there. You can't knock Nick Saban out of there just because he's had a year where he's not going to compete for a national title just one time in 2 decades. So he's still up there at the top.
Right.
You can't ignore what Brian Kelly did in year one, and then you have to pile on what he did at Notre Dame before that. But it's also just year one at LSU. Let me see him do it another year. Josh Heupel done some amazing things at Tennessee, but let me see what he does when he doesn't have a good quarterback in there, right? So it's like Billy Napier, a little too early to judge on him, right? He had a so-so year with, Anthony Richardson, who was up and down in his play. Does that mean Billy Napier can't coach? Not necessarily, but it's only his first year, a little early there. The guys who you have to put down there, in my opinion, closer to the bottom are going to be guys like Drinkwitz. Like, I think Drinkwitz is a nice enough dude, but I just don't see it from him as being a guy who's going to perennially compete for a title, even in the SEC East. Right. So you got to throw him closer to the bottom of that list. I think that he's a phenomenal offensive mind, but I don't think you can put Mike Leach up there at the top. He's good, but not great. Like, offensively great, but defenses just routinely have been just giving up too many plays. And then Lane Kiffin is a guy who's right there in the middle, who's a great offensive mind, but can never field a good defense. Doesn't matter what the year is, who the coordinator is, what the school is. Defenses are just going to perennially be so-so. They're going to play well for periods of games, periods of seasons, but they're going to fall apart at some point in time during the season. So I don't know. It's hard to judge that. So again, on the face of it right now, he's right there in the middle of the pack, in my opinion.
Right. Let's talk for a second about what Auburn fans will tolerate in years 1 and 2. So Brian Harsin won six games in his first year, and the sky was falling. Does Hugh Freeze get the same treatment if he turns in a 500 season next year?
Oh, if he gets a 500 season, then I think we might really see some like physical demonstration on tumor scoring with signs. Like, you can't. That's the predicament that Auburn, the decision makers have placed themselves in. Is you heard a concerted cry from, I won't say it's a majority. Twitter is always a minority. As much as it seems like there are a lot of voices there, Twitter is a minority. It is not the majority of any group of people. It is the majority of Twitter people. So with that being said, though, they were very vocal and they were very passionate and very specific about what their issues were with Hugh Freeze as a head coaching candidate.
Right.
If you ignore a group that was very specific, it's not like, oh, well, people might not like this. Like, there were some people who didn't want Gus gone and did want Gus gone. And you can get away with firing Gus because people were kind of like, I don't know. Nobody said if Gus stays next year, I'm not coming back to games. But in this case, you heard before you made the decision, as soon as his name was brought up, similar to Kevin Steele, people were like, hell no, don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. The same way that letters got written in support of Brian Harsin when they were trying to oust him, it was from players. And so it had a little more weight, but those things got official. And people seemed to listen, at least with Brian Harsin, because he hadn't really done anything actually wrong as far as what he was accused of. Right. So in this case, people were like, hey, there's not only is there smoke, there are glowing embers on the ground. Can y'all listen to us, please? You can't ignore those people and field a team that was that essentially was bad enough to get Brian Harsin beginning to get fired. If that was reason enough to get Brian Harsin out of here, even if it was illegitimate, you can't ignore a part of your fan base and then decide to go ahead and go along with what you want to do anyway and have the guys still be losing. Because let's be clear, 6-6 is 500. When you pay for 3 wins, 6-6 is worse than 500. Realistically, how I count wins in my head, that's not the official tally. No, you turn in 6-6. What that really means, you win 3-6 against quality competition, and that's not acceptable. He can't go 3-6 against quality competition after so many people said we don't want this dude. That would be a disaster, and I think it would probably be the worst case scenario for Hugh Freeze in year 1. So it's got to be better than that. It would have to be better.
I just want to know, it wasn't just a Twitter mob. Almost 10,000 emails got sent to Auburn University president in opposition of this hire. So people were very vocal, and that was in one day. So who knows how many more emails they got of people kind of opposing this hire. Want to get to some super chats here. David Whitehead says, will Hugh keep Caddy and hire Muschamp or Travis Williams? Listen, I'm on the bring T. Will home train. As a matter of fact, if we were going to hire Caddy, I would have been like, absolutely. Let's just round this out with our guys. Go get Damian Craig and get Travis Williams. So let's make this thing an all Auburn ordeal. Janoris says, why so much sunshine pumping? This is a terrible hire. This is any Auburn is always in the same position. 2 years from now, we will be looking again. Yeah, I think that's the nightmare scenario. Ike, you're muted.
I said I assume he's talking to the chat when he said sunshine pumping. I don't know that we've been pumping sunshine.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are jazzed about this hire, but again, a lot of people were split. They were split on whether they wanted this hire or not. So you're going to see some sunshine pumping, but I think you'll see an equal amount of whatever the opposite of sunshine pumping is. We need to come up with that term. We need to, we need to trademark the opposite of that. SMT can't wait to read the morals clause. Listen,
hey, for real.
He had to look somebody in the face and convince them that he was going to be a good leader of men and that he was going to stay out of trouble while he was here. So, before we move on real quickly, just real quick, guys, is Cohen risking his reputation on this hire, or is he just scapegoated because the powers that be got what they wanted and, he was the face of it? Like, is his job on the line with this?
I mean, job on the line. I don't know. He'll get another shot at another hire if this doesn't work out. So if you're saying, I just don't know that there are very many athletic directors who will get fired because of their first hire. You're going to have to do more than just have one bad hire before that's a situation, unless they just never liked you to begin with.
Mm-hmm. If he gets us on probation, or if something happens that negatively impacts the team.
Well, and that's why I said yes and yes, because he had the support of the boosters that helped usher this along. So he'll get a get out of jail free card if something like that happens.
Right.
And I think that would be more so on Hugh Freeze than it would be on John Cohen, right? Like, you giving somebody a second chance doesn't make you a bad person. The person screwing up the second chance is the bad person.
Facts.
That's true. But there's also a certain amount of risk that comes along with hiring somebody. But again, I'm with you that I don't think this was him saying do it. I think this was the people above him saying do it. So you think they wouldn't, but if the fire gets hot enough because of whatever transgression happens that will cause an abrupt end to his tenure, then he may just be the lamb that gets slaughtered for it. I mean, just
I don't personally think that would happen, but again, I'm not going to pretend to know the machinations of people with money and how they decide that they're going to make decisions about who gets to be the sacrificial lamb.
Ben Bloward says, we got Bizarro Gus Malzahn with Petrino level baggage. Yay. Know how Ben feels about that. Melanie Ashford, good to see Mama Ashford in here always. Cadillac should be assistant head coach, period. I agree. I echo that sentiment. I think anything else would be uncivilized. Cody Smith, orange out, navy out, Now let's do a freeze out. Come on in, Ice Blue, Unis, let's go, baby.
Only problem is Ole Miss already got him, and so does North Carolina. So we can't.
Yeah, I don't know if Hugh's going to be the guy that gets us the alternate Unis. He's going to have to win a national championship or two before they let him do that. John L. Does Sankey or the NCAA set up office on campus? Now, here's where I'm at, fellas, about the dangers of hiring a Hugh Freeze. If he does mess up in some kind of way, and I'm talking about football-related things, break some rule, impermissible contact, any of that stuff, they're going to hammer us. They're going to hammer us. They're going to come down as hard as they can. And, you know, the Thamels of the world and all those people who already hate Auburn, who were...
I have a question, though. Mm-hmm. Would that have been any different with any hire?
Yeah, I think it would have been. I think it would have been.
Yeah, the NCAA has always been pretty harsh on Auburn, regardless of what happened. So I don't know that this is the reason that they're going to be harder on Auburn.
Well, I'll tell you what, they weren't during the Bruce Pearl thing. We self-imposed. They gave us the benefit of the doubt. But, you know, Bruce kept his hands clean for, 8 years?
That's the difference. Bruce wasn't the person who was in trouble. It was someone else. Right. So I'm just saying, if it's a situation where it was like Bruce, where it was somebody else doing something, that's not the same thing.
True.
But if Bruce had done it, they'd have killed us.
Yeah.
They'd have absolutely massacred Auburn.
They still found him responsible enough that they handed him a 2-game suspension because it happened under his roof.
Understood. Yeah. But my point is that there's nothing that so I'll echo your point while making my point, which is because this puts you at a higher level of scrutiny, they're probably going to be looking a lot more intently at it.
Okay. Fair.
So it makes it less likely that you could get away with anything that skirts a line. But do I think that the potential penalty will be harsher? No, it's Auburn. They're looking for a reason to nail us to the cross.
Well, for that, I will say this. The NCAA might not set up shop on campus, but Auburn's compliance.
Rich McGlenn, where you at, family?
Is strongest. You're talking about the compliance department that is best equipped to deal with a line stepper. Like this is probably the only compliance department in the conference who is equipped to deal with this. We avoided major penalties with Cam Newton. We didn't jump in on NIL too early and jump into that fire, whatever it was, which was a very prudent decision. And we made the decision based on the information that was available to forego postseason eligibility with the one season because of what happened with what was the coach? The person? Where?
Yeah.
Tough person.
Yeah. Our department knows what they're doing. They know how to keep things clean and on the up and up. My anticipation is there is going to be a dude. I don't know if they've already got that dude. I will apply to be that dude that basically just shadows him and looks over his shoulder. What you doing, Hugh? Mm-hmm. Don't send that message. Give me that phone. Give me that phone. Finish signing autographs, man. You're doing too much. Whoever that, I'm sure that they have it already ready because you know what you're getting into. You had to have that firm talk with them. I seriously doubt our compliance department would be like, yeah, just hire him. Let's cross our fingers and he's going to do great. No, they're going to protect this investment because it's not just about money right now. Yeah. You would have had to pay out the wazoo to get Lane, but Lane hasn't stepped wrong like Hugh has stepped wrong. If Hugh steps wrong, it's a whole nother mess that you don't want to have to deal with. So you protect yourself. You build in some safeguards for Hugh, for yourself. And my guess is that it would never they just wouldn't be reckless about how they enforce this or how they allow him to do business here.
Right. Let's jump back into some more super chats. Don L says the Sankey. Well, we just did that one. I'm sorry. Alabama Prep. Good to see you. I think if we retain Carnell, Ike, and Zach, we could be a recruiting powerhouse. Got some more questions about recruiting, so we'll circle back around to this one. Mm-hmm. Step aside Harsin, Hugh Freeze, his paintballs. Freezes his paintballs. Ooh, ouch. Wardham Eagle, the Iceman cometh. Cody Smith here. Bring in Brian Johnson as OC. It's
going to be interesting to see who the offensive coordinator hire is. I mean, just all the staff, how it rounds out.
Both the coordinators, for sure. I was going to ask that question later. Brian Hanchard, honest question. Was there a realistic potential hire that wouldn't have caused some controversy amongst our fan base?
No,
listen. Well, I think there's a difference between controversy, and I just didn't want this guy. This wasn't my preferred hire, right? I think there were some that wouldn't have caused controversy. That doesn't mean that people wouldn't have been opposed to it, but controversy is the next level of like, we've got legitimate storylines that we have to talk about that are uncomfortable and we don't want to talk about. Bus 358, what do you all think this means for recruiting? I'll be interested again in this. I'll pose this question to you. Does this hiring open up the door for negative recruiting by other schools based on some of the reasons that people didn't want Hugh Freeze to come to Auburn?
If he was the girls' basketball coach, maybe.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we're sexist in the South. Got it.
No, that's not a sexism thing. I'm saying most of the issues that people have are about what they feel like is safety around women. There are going to be people. So possibly, yes.
Okay.
But do I think it's going to have a huge negative effect on recruiting? No.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's super important that not only that he keeps his hands clean, but these players are model citizens
for sure
under this head coach. So any behavior issues,
which is crazy because behavior issues happen everywhere, but because of this head coach being the person named, then everything's going to look like, see, he doesn't have control of his players, but Bama players slapping people running off the field, people think Nick Saban's a saint somehow still. So
right,
it's whatever.
Jazzy Joe, we need a Hugh Freeze interview, guys. As always, we're going to be working to bring you guys any and every interview that is pertinent and relevant to Auburn football. I am Hop. Looking forward to see what Hugh does with Robbie. I think this might be the most exciting storyline here is he takes a guy like Rob. Can he do with Robbie what he did with Malik Willis?
Mm-hmm.
If he can, Auburn's in for a hell of a season next year. I think they surprise a lot of people. Guys, I want to thank everybody for joining us on a Monday. We're 30 minutes in here talking about Auburn hiring Hugh Freeze as the next head coach. It's being widely reported. The university has not released an official statement, but once we have that statement, we will bring that to you guys right here. So you want to hang with us. If you want to support the work we're doing so we can bring you more of these random lives, get yourself a membership. $5.99 a month will help keep us viable here at the War Report. Myself, B. Will, C-Dub, who could not join us, and Ike Jones working hard to bring you guys as much coverage as humanly possible. Okay. So jumping back in here with Mr. Hugh Freeze. What is the expectation in year one, do we think? In year one, what do we think he's going to be able to produce in terms of record in year one with Auburn football?
That's a difficult question to answer until I see what the staff looks like and what we do in the transfer portal. But
well, let me pose it this way: what do you think the expectation will be?
Eight wins.
8 wins.
I think that most fans would be disappointed with anything less than 8 wins. If you are a Hugh Freeze detractor right now, we got to win a national title next year before you even entertain Hugh Freeze and some people still won't care. Let's be clear.
Right.
Winning does not cure all. It forgives a multitude of sins, but it does not cure all. So there will be some people, no matter how successful Hugh Freeze's tenure could or could not be, that they're not going to like it. But I think that 8 wins gets you in a place where people feel like at least we're moving in a better direction than we were under the last coach. I don't think 7 wins does it. 7 wins puts you at 1 win better than Brian Harsin year one. I think you got to get at least to 8 wins because 8 wins, depending upon when those 8 wins come or when the losses come, I should say, puts you in a place where for the vast majority of that season, you're in contention for an SEC West title.
Right.
Especially if one of those wins is a non-conference P5, right? Like I don't even know who we have as our non-conference P5 next year. But if one of those losses is against that, then you're still in contention for an SEC West title up until late into the season. And so I think 8 wins is right around where you need to be in order for most people to be happy. 9 wins would be ideal.
Okay, Brian, what's the expectation this year? I agree with Ike. I think 7 wins doesn't do it. I think you got to be two wins better than Brian Harsin.
Yeah, I think
in his first year.
8 is knocking off those 3 gimmies. That's a 5-4 Power 5 schedule, and that's a winning record. So that means when you lined up against competition that was comparable, you won more than you lost, and I think that's respectable. Year one, he has a couple things going for him in that he has a true dual threat guy that's already here who just went through his formative year.
Zach Calzada might come back with this hire. So you might have a legitimate 2 QB race going into the spring next year.
Right. We have liked what we've seen in the turnover in the wide receiver room over the last year and a half. And I think that significant progress has been made to right the ship on offense, but they are missing legitimately like 7 offensive linemen for real. Like this right now, none of that matters if we can't get it. Like, it's great. We didn't have great offensive line in 2021, and then we lost some of those guys and they got hurt. But we had experience. Like, I think about Brandon Council, who wasn't considered an all-world anything, but physically and mentally, he was up for the job for center. I don't know if we can turn around our season to be what it was in the last 4 games if there wasn't a Brandon Council there. There are no Brandon Councils left after this year. There are no guys out of position, but they're experienced and they're wise. There's almost nothing in the offensive line room. That is such a big, how in the hell do you do it? Now, you assume you bring his old ties in, Matt Luke from Ole Miss, who ended up being the head coach when Hugh Freeze left. He was an offensive line coach by trade. He's somewhere right now. I think he's still.
He was at Georgia, but he resigned from his position mid-season at Georgia.
Okay, so maybe that is when it's. Maybe that is when it all started. They're setting up. Hey, you know, I'm finna get the Auburn guy. Oh, you want me to get out of here? Okay, I got you. I'll try to bring a couple guys with me. So that means was he recruiting? So does that mean he was recruiting the guy from Langston Hughes that we were trying to flip? We listen. They turn around that offensive line quick enough, and that's
a bigger that way.
I'm saying so. Okay, if they can turn around the offensive line, which is going to be easier said than done because there are so many. I think they'll be great with high school prospects. I think they can probably bring in a dynamite class of 4 or 5 really talented offensive linemen. We have 2 that were recruited and willing to come here no matter what. Braden Joyner, the center from Auburn, and Clay, I don't want to mispronounce his last name.
Whedon or Whedon, but
okay. So we got 2 guys. Eston Harris came here last year. He's been here. He's been on the roster, strength and training. He's going through that. You can't do it with 5, 6 freshmen offensive linemen, though. Right. So it's got to be transfer portal. That is the key. Can you get offensive linemen here now? People who are going to leave their programs, because again, offensive linemen, good ones, leave. They move the least of any position group in transfer portal. They don't like to move. They don't need a spotlight to get picked highly. What was it? The guy who Kansas City took #1 overall in the draft like 8 years ago. He was like a left tackle from Central Michigan or something. It doesn't, you don't have to be at Alabama, at Florida, at Georgia, playing the best offensive line against the best defenses for people to see what you got and want to draft you. So those guys aren't necessarily running to the portal to come play for Hugh Freeze. They can play with a rat. They can play at Iowa and score 5 points a game and still get drafted top 10 if they're good enough.
Right.
How does he fill that void? If he fills that void, then this could be a 10-11 win team. Yeah. If you piecing it together and you're just hoping and wishing, then it could be a 7-8 win team. But I don't think he gets away with less than 8 and not bring some serious ire down on himself and from the fan base who has been against it from day one.
Yeah, and let's be clear. When I say 8 wins, I think that is public opinion. I am still of the opinion that you don't fire a coach after year 1.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's yes. Not after 1 year.
Let's jump back into some super chats here, guys. Rich McGlynn, right, is bringing a mama at the store energy to compliance. Don't touch nothing. Don't ask for nothing.
Hey, for real.
I was real south of you. Robbie is about to feast under the Iceman. I think so. I think his record there is pretty good. Mr. Tyrone, was Cohen and Freeze sitting in the hot tub years ago?
I get where that joke is coming from, but all right.
I don't know. Lisa Daniel, word is Freeze has started already recruiting. Listen,
he should have. This was in the bag.
He probably started 2 days ago. Yeah, he started recruiting when he was like, I would not take the job if they offered it to me.
Right. I think the minute that Hugh Freeze went on TV and they asked him, or in a presser, they asked him, if you were offered the Auburn job, would you take it? And he said, if they'll have me, I think right then he started turning his his eyes towards what would I do if I got this job, and started making phone
Mhm.
calls to people about, hey, if I get the job, would you come work for me? Hey, if I get this job, blah. Like, I think he started setting his plan up, putting it in motion. He clearly had to have done an interview, and he laid out some sort of plan for how he wanted to attack the transfer portal, what he wanted his staff to look like, and who the people are who he thought he could bring over with him. This man has been planning this for not weeks, years. He's
Yep.
been waiting on this opportunity for years.
Cody Smith here says the Iceman's first year gets GA, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Bama at home. I like it.
Hey, so did Harson's first year.
Yeah, can't even complain about that. Dave Medlock says Auburn is going from a Cadillac to an Escort. He thinks we're grading here from Caddy, not from Harson, from Caddy.
That's still clever, but from those are both cars, Cadillac Escort. I like it.
Yeah. So
I like it.
The Ford Escort is discontinued, by the way, so that should have been noted here in that comment. Drop a bag on O-line. Listen, drop the biggest of bags on O-line. Drop everything that we didn't give him. The difference between what we paid Kiffin and what we're going to pay Freeze, which I'll be really interested to find out once they release the details of that contract. Right. Spend on O-line. 22 busy. We need to have a special NIL called Big Cats for O-line. Yeah, I agree. Texas did it. It worked for them. They got the #1 O-line class in the country last year.
84.
Paying salaries, paying engineering salaries, starting engineering salaries for O-linemen. Haley Tubb, he better have Robbie winning the Heisman and AU winning the Natty. The ice we just jumped out on is super thin and unstable. You have to win big and quickly and stay clap out of trouble. Double clap. I agree. I'm going to address this in a second when we talk about his introductory press conference, because I can't wait to see Cohen introduce Hugh Freeze. And
will there be pickets out front?
Right. Yeah. I just don't know what he said. I don't know how he's going to escape the questions about integrity and past transgressions. And it should be a very interesting presser. Might actually go up to Auburn for that one. Depending on when they schedule it. I might have to be there firsthand. Cody Smith, could y'all imagine Takeo Spikes as DC? It'd be terrified to mess with.
He's terrified.
Yeah. Listen, he's a terrifying individual. And I think maybe he even scared his neck away because it's not even there anymore.
Does he want to be a coach? Does Takeo Spikes want to coach?
I don't think so. I think he's doing a lot of other things. He's got the Behind the Mask podcast, and he's got, he's on SEC Network. I think he's comfortable where he's at. Not everybody is ready to give up. I mean, he made enough money, I'm sure, during his NFL career that he doesn't have to do that. So it wouldn't be a money thing. It would have to be for a love of the game and love of the guys kind of thing. Cleveland Brown, does Freeze bring any players from Liberty? Not after that New Mexico beatdown. I don't know.
I mean, if he's got some quality O linemen, hopefully they'll jump in the portal and follow him. But I mean, I will review some Liberty tape probably throughout this week, and I'll tell you if there's a guy that's on that roster that has some eligibility left, that I'm like, man, hey, you go get this guy.
Go get this guy, right?
Yeah.
Aaron says, does he keep Cadillac and Eric?
I don't know who Eric is.
Who's Eric? Does he mean Zach Etheridge? Maybe.
I would like to Bellantoni. What's Bellantoni? Rock Bellantoni. What is his real name? Eric or something? I don't know who Eric is.
Yeah, if you could clarify for us, Aaron, so that we know who you're talking about there. But I do think they should find a way to retain Trevon Reed as well. Just my thoughts.
I don't think Trevon Reed's position was under, because I mean, it's an off the field position. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know when you hire a new coach.
Yeah.
Holy shnikes. Someone asked for coaching style overview, offense and defense. Our guy, James Barnett here, fellas, who else do you think we should retain from the staff, and do recruits that were considering Auburn pull the trigger? Also, OC and DC. I think for addressing this first question, recruits have still been committing. So I have to assume that maybe even there was some back channel communication to some of these recruits about what direction they were headed with the coach. because recruits are still rolling in. I think as of today, Auburn is ranked like 38th in recruiting. So with a few high-profile commits, they could rocket up that recruiting board. And then OCDC, this will be an interesting, especially the defensive coordinator hire. I think with an offensive head coach, you should never lack an offensive identity.
Right.
Should be his system. However, DC, can he reproduce Ike, the land shark defense at Auburn?
I mean, that's who. Let me see who his coordinator is.
Right.
Let me see who his defensive coordinator is. There's some good ones that are available out there that I think would come to Auburn. So it's going to be super interesting to see who decides to make that jump. I think Travis is a good defensive coordinator, despite what happened those last couple of games defensively, in which I don't put the Navy game really on the defense. But despite what happened those last couple of games defensively there. So, hey, man, I think he'd welcome an opportunity to come back to Auburn as a DC. I don't think he would take the step down to linebacker coach again, though. So
okay,
and nor should he.
Right, Johnny B. Do you guys think this is actually legit? The sports writers are out of control right now. Yes, because national media is starting to pick it up now, and some outlets
I'm gonna be honest with you. And I told the guy I don't even know what time it was last night when I hit you guys up, and I was like, I'm hearing it might still be Freeze. This was yesterday. This is last night when I heard that information. So this, to me, this is not just smoke. There's some definite fire.
Yeah. Former Auburn player Will Herring issued an impassioned statement on Twitter in support.
How passionate it was.
It
had a lot of words, but
in support of Hugh Freeze. People question the timing of that since he has not tweeted since 2019. Aaron comes back and says,
go ahead. I'm going to address the Will Herring thing in more detail.
Okay,
Will will probably never come on our channel after I say this.
Okay, good. You do it. Because I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it. Go ahead.
Eric Kiesau. Eric Kiesau got the left-footed fellowship with Hartson.
He gone.
Yeah. He got the boot. He exited stage left and will not be back. So you don't have to worry about that. Aaron's sorry, guys. I meant Zach over here reviewing code for one damn. This guy's writing code and watching the War Report. My man.
I like it, man.
The superheroes do
Whenever
exist.
we get ready to develop our own product out there, Aaron, holla at us.
Yeah, send us an email, Aaron. We might be in need of your services. Do you think Joe Brady would come back for an OC at AU? I would love to have Joe Brady.
I don't think it's going to happen, though.
Oh, man. No. Yeah, of course, the answer is no, but I would love it. I think that would be
I always
awesome.
wondered, when you've got an offensive guy for head coach, and it's literally his system, like the principles and schemes that you're running are all of his mind and making and the plays. What is the role of the OC? Because we know for a while here under Gus, OC was just a title. I mean, you're helping the quarterbacks go through drills, but you don't have the final say on what gets called necessarily. Maybe there was some of that with Chip Kelly. Not Chip Kelly, what's his name? Chip Lindsey, excuse me.
Chip Lindsey. Yeah.
Chip Lindsey did some of the play calling, but Rhett Lashley was kind of like an extension of Gus, so it wasn't really that different. I never got the feeling that Dillingham was doing anything but letting Gus call the plays and doing some quarterback coaching. So what does he have an OC now? Does Hugh Freeze have an OC at Liberty? And if he does, what does he do?
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's a mixed bag depending upon how much that person particularly likes play calling. Like some people are game planners / play designers, and then they let someone else call the plays play to play and then just make the big decisions about do we go for it on fourth type of thing. Other ones are play callers, like they got the play sheet, right? And they're out there actively calling plays. And to your question about what does that OC do? It just depends, right? Like they could be an additional quarterback coach that they're bringing in to help make sure that they're getting, the pass game coordinated properly. They could be an additional wide receiver coach to make sure that, hey, I'm going to call the plays. I'm going to get the QB ready, but we're going to have an extra person in the wide receiver room. Or they're really just there because they're a really good recruiter. And so it's like, all right, I'm going to handle a lot of the play design, play calling. I just need you to bring me talent. So
Right.
there's a mixed bag of how you want to handle that. From all accounts, Hugh Freeze is really more of a CEO type of coach. So he's going to set up the structure to be whatever is going to fill in the gaps for what he doesn't feel like he either has time or the ability to do well in the staff. So it might just be to bolster something like, for instance, if he wanted to bring in somebody else that is a really good offensive line recruiter because he wants to day one get better offensive line, he could give them an OC title and they would never call a single play. But
Right.
to bring him into here and give him a title that allows him to give him more money, he could do that. Right. So there's a lot of ways that he could play it that would allow him to be successful. So I don't know. I don't know how he's going to do it. To your question about what does he do at Liberty right now, I don't know the answer to that either. So that's something over the next week or so, now that we know who it's going to be, that I'll dig into more.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're just joining us, this is a War Report special. It looks as if Auburn is set to hire Hugh Freeze as the next head coach. We're here with you live on a Monday talking about it. If you can't chat, it's because you're not a subscriber. But if you have become a subscriber, you can go one step further and become a member of the War Report. $5.99 a month will help support the work that we're doing here, as well as these random midday lives. Over 800 of you guys in here with us, at 5 Eastern, 4 Central on a Monday, talking it out. So we're going to talk through it, tweet through it, get through this, guys. Auburn is set to hire Hugh Freeze as the next head coach. Jumping back in here with a few more comments from you guys. Let's see here. I had one. Seth says, I think this team is like an old house. The roof may have fell in, but the studs are still good. Freeze has some work to do, but nothing impossible. I agree. That's how I felt when Brian Harsin took over. I felt like, hey, this shouldn't be a total rebuild. And I think that Cadillac kind of showed us that it's not, that it wasn't. You're muted, B.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It wasn't a total rebuild if you're willing to do whatever can be done to maximize your return short term. I think Brian Harsin was comfortable letting whatever the product was be the product, while all the guys took it on the chin, and everything looked really rough for the 2, 3, 4 years it took to get his guys everywhere at every position and learning his system and executing it like he wants to. But I don't think nobody in the fan base was comfortable with letting us be that bad while you get us molded into whatever shape you think football shape this program should be in. And with Hugh Freeze, now one thing has happened from the Brian Harsin tenure, that is we know exactly what we have in the cupboard. We weren't exactly sure what was here when Gus Malzahn left. We weren't sure what we had on offense. We weren't sure what we had on the offensive line. We weren't sure what we had on Bo Nix at quarterback. We weren't sure what we had at wide receiver. And we see that some things were better than we thought and some things were worse than we thought. The benefit that Hugh Freeze, again, he's walking into like a ready-made situation here. And it's not because we're stacked everywhere, but we know exactly what we look like at offensive line. Egregious, code red, critical. You know that, so you can fix it. Unlike with Brian Harsin, like, oh man, these guys are good enough to run my system. No, so you were wrong about that. And it ended up having us look real bad. So we know what we look like there. We know we have something at quarterback. And we know we have a guy who has made guys who play just like Robbie Ashford look really good. So there's enthusiasm. You know that you have opening facilities, NIL opening up, a lot of opportunity to convince people really quickly that this is where they want to be. So I don't expect it to just come down to what we have on the roster right now. Transfer portal is popping. Transfer portal right now is like it's like the club and all-star weekend. Like everybody's there, everybody's going, and if you're not out there, they calling you like, hey man, you coming out here? It's a lot of people out here.
Yeah.
There is no reason now, understanding what we have and what we don't have, to not be I would say this. I'll still say you give everybody 3 years. This is a very unique situation. A very unique situation. You've got to be able to do it. I think he should be able to do it sooner.
Okay.
He should be able to do it sooner. I would be very disappointed if we aren't looking at least 9 wins by year 2. At least 9 wins by year 2. The cupboard isn't bare, but we do have a lot of work to do. Linebacker and offensive line need to be restarted completely.
B. Will's forehead says, "Do you think Freeze smells like Nichols and drinks white Gatorade? And can we just go ahead and buy Jimbo from Texas A&M to be our OC?"
Why would you say things like this?
There are at least two things I hate in that sentence.
At least that's like, I don't know if there's anything in that sentence that I like.
The white Gatorade thing just made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. We covered that on our last show.
White Gatorade's not the worst one though. It's still the cucumber situation.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, they decided to one up themselves with that one.
Yeah.
For sure. David Whitehead, can we trust Hugh? I know we gave Bruce a second chance. Keep Caddy and get Travis Williams, DC, Rhett Lashley, OC. Well, y'all, I don't understand the Rhett Lashley talk.
Yeah, Rhett Lashley's a head. He's been a head coach, and I don't know that he wants to go back to OC.
Why would the trajectory from him is from head coach at a group of 5, head coach at either a really big group of 5, like a top 3 group of 5, or
maybe
head coach.
He can be the next Cincy guy or something like that.
Right? Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, I don't think he wants to go back to offensive coordinator. I think he actually likes being a coach. And if he does step up to be an OC again, I don't know that Auburn is the place he would come back to, especially if he's going to be in a situation where it's going to be similarly, he wouldn't actually be calling plays for the most part. It doesn't feel like a good fit for Rhett Lashley. And Rhett Lashley doesn't really garner the attention of offensive recruits in the way that you would want. So I don't really know that that's a good fit in this scenario.
Yeah, I agree with T. Will, though. Drop the bag for him to bring him home to the Plains.
Yeah.
Christian Crawford, folks are too comfortable about this for my taste. What about the women and the girls? We have no values. Society doesn't care about right and wrong anymore. I will never support this hire. This is a popular sentiment. We definitely don't want to brush over this. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with this hire, guys, for non-football reasons, and feel like, this is dismissing what should be the focus here, in that, it's not only football that matters, but this is a leader of men. So definitely respect any opinion with people who are uncomfortable from that situation. Hopefully he's cleaned up his act, and not just for the sake of wins and losses, but for the sake of his players and the families that will be working under him that will be affected if he can't keep his hands clean. Will be. The question always tells us more than the answers do. So let's see the 58 interview question. Yes.
Yeah, definitely would like to see how many of the 58 points on Cohen's list Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, because you're going to have some questions there, buddy, at that press conference. Can't wait to be there. I might be there asking it. So DM me your questions on Twitter. I might get a couple of them in at the press conference. Let's see here. I'm so sick of people wanting Robbie to be a wide receiver too. Lisa was just like, all this coaching talk. Let's talk about Robbie for a second.
Yeah, I get it. I fundamentally understand how people arrive at this conclusion, but I also fundamentally understand that you and I don't need to talk football if you think wide receiver is the position.
Yeah,
I just don't. I mean, I don't know what to say to you. Like, I get it. I get how you get there. I especially understand if you have been consistent in your stance on what you want from a quarterback. But there are people who tout guys as good or potentially good. I won't say good, potentially good quarterbacks that have never been good and have way more leash for those guys than they ever had for an injured first-year starter in Robbie Ashford. And I just don't get that.
Yeah.
I don't get.
Definitely understand that one. Our guy Corey Weber, good to see you, Corey. Guess I need to ask what everyone is apparently afraid to. How are we going to fix our 3-point shooting problem? Yep,
hold opponents under 40, Corey. That's how we're going to do it.
That is a problem.
Portal is probably the only way you're going to do that. It's not going to be during this season.
On a side note about basketball, Jabari Smith is killing it.
He started warming up. Yep.
Oh my God, I think he's averaging 19.9 or something like that. Something crazy. But only like the second rookie ever in the history of the NBA to do that in their first year. Jazzy Joe, does this hire keep Cobb?
Possibly.
I think it's
think
likely that
Caddy
Cobb was
retention
gonna stay.
is more.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Cobb, the running
Oh,
back.
okay, yeah, okay.
I think
Yeah,
Caddy's retention is probably the bigger thing about Jeremiah Cobb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless you want to be run out of town the day you move in, like you're keeping Cadillac.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand. I don't understand why they wouldn't do that. It seems like a no-brainer. And this is a guy who you can tell you're going to keep him.
Right. And I think he wanted to. Like,
yeah.
Like what you're saying is we said this about Bruce at the time. We kind of went we caught him in the bargain bin.
Mm-hmm.
He's an excellent head coach who had enough of a checkered past. Think about the Tennessee checker, you know what I'm saying? Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
That you had to have some reservation, and you could say, all right, we're gonna essentially underpay you. Thank you, Mike. You got there first.
I got there late, so I got there.
Essentially underpay Bruce to come in and start building something. Because you could say this is the best opportunity that you're going to get, and you are the best talent at coach that we are going to get. So let's do this together and see where we go. There's a very similar thing with Hugh Freeze. I'm not talking about why they were in trouble in the past. That's not what I'm talking about. Who Hugh Freeze is as a coaching candidate right now, similar to what everybody else said. Did you hear his name being circulated for any other jobs? No.
Nope.
Nobody else wanted Hugh Freeze. There are two advantages to that. Number one, he could say, I want to make sure I'm just representing you right. I want to get Cadillac in here and get everybody in here, and I'll bring Tommy Tuberville back if he wants to. Like he's going to do what we want him to do. And I say we, I mean the university and the people who hired him, because he knows how much he needs to endear himself to this university and to the people who made that decision. There was nobody on Liberty's staff who is a better running back coach and recruiter than Cadillac Williams, number one. Even off of just coaching, that wasn't a better fit. Number two, once you see what Cadillac means to this place, why would you do that?
Right.
Now, if you wanted some of the other names that were being floated out there, there's a risk that they could say, listen, I see what you did here, but I got my guy who does what you do. So I'm going to go with my guy. That's not the case with Hugh Freeze. He has to implant himself here. And part of that is you're keeping Caddy, and you might be keeping some other guys, whether you want to or not. And I don't think we had any Auburn guys who were dead weight on the staff, for the record. I don't think we have that here. But I think it would have been foolish to get in the door and go, oh, man, you really just turn things around morale-wise for the fan base. Good luck next year wherever you go. Man, they would have got him out of here before he wouldn't have signed those papers. He signed those papers understanding and promising that Cadillac, probably overjoyed to keep Cadillac. It's probably the best running back coach he ever had, man. Man, please.
Oh my God. Let's get back to some more comments here. James Barnett, fellas, with the defensive guy that flipped from LSU along with Reuben Bain and the duo from Montgomery Carver, how quickly does Hugh Freeze hire a DC?
I mean, listen, if he has been preparing the way I think he has, the DC hire is
tomorrow.
Yeah, he's already got his top three candidates, and he's just picking up the phone today saying like, hey, I'm signing my contract tomorrow. You signing yours the day after, right? Like they're probably in negotiations currently for those positions.
Amani Smoot says, I expect national championship first year. Definitely has high expectations in year one.
Never mind. It's Amani. Never mind.
Consistent Amani.
Amani.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. So he definitely is looking forward to celebrating a national championship. Doesn't care who the coach is, just thinks we should win every year. James Stallings, Robbie tweeted, look at it real quick. Interesting. Let me go to Twitter. Pull up Robbie Ashford.
While you're doing that, Mike, I got a question. Does a top 10 recruiting finish after February, does that change some people's minds early? Because that was the bad recruiting cycle was what got Brian Hart's on everybody's bad side, on top of the 6-6 and 6-7 season. The bad recruiting year was like, oh, well, we can go ahead and try to get rid of him. Does a good recruiting cycle quickly start to turn how people feel about the hire Hugh Freeze?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, people were so down on Harsin for it, and they were, there was a literal narrative. I could deal with these mediocre seasons if at least recruiting was trending the right direction, which it clearly was not. So, Yeah, I think recruiting helps. Recruiting helps everything. It definitely helps the perception of the program, and it buys you some time while you're trying to get it together on the field because you're coaching against some really good coaches in the SEC West. Robbie Ashford tweeted, "Welcome to the Plains. Let's get to work. We've got unfinished business to handle." So he seems pumped about this. And this, if you're Robbie, this hire almost guarantees that you're going to be the starting quarterback next year, right? Like,
You would think.
I don't know if it guarantees it. He's going to have to bring somebody in to compete with him.
Sure, but
so
yeah, I just think
Robbie's still
Robbie
going to have to earn it.
I think it's still his prototypical quarterback in Robbie Ashford. More athleticism than Malik Willis. And if he can polish up his arm and throw like Malik did last year, certainly that will be a positive. Jazzy Joe, Ike, I want to hear the Will Herring hot take. We are here. We're at this point in the programming where we have to talk about Twitter rants.
Yeah.
Ike, hit us with it.
Yeah. So you said it's more so because you said it was impassioned. And he looked like somebody woke him up out of a nap to go record that video first and foremost.
Oh,
like,
Lord, here we go.
He did. He looked. He. If dead behind the eyes was a person, it was Will Herring in that video. Like he
checked his Cash App. Cash App came through.
I mean, here's the thing.
Will you do a video? He's like, yeah,
it was such a like, who cares what you're talking about thing? Because it's like, I've never met the man personally. So why are you talking? What are you talking? What are we talking about right now? I've never met him, but he's a good guy. How do you know? Because you know somebody who knows him. Can't we just hear from them? Can't we hear from the person who actually knows him? Or do we only have to hear from you because you played at Auburn? Like, it was such a nonsensical video. And I get people wanting to have an Auburn person come out strong but can you find somebody who actually met the man? Anybody who actually met him, and not find somebody who like walked past his house one time on a tour. Like, I just don't understand what the purpose of that Will Herring video was.
Yeah, it was bizarre to me. And again, you never tweet anything, and then this is the thing you tweet. Like, it was. I think the timing was weird for me because I have not heard any Will Herring takes on anything Auburn football in so long. So I thought it was strange, but
the reaction was a little silly too. Let me give it some balance. Like, people, like, as much as I was like, Will Herring, you've never met the man. How can you vouch for his character? But yet everyone can assassinate his character, but they've never met him. Like, it's just all anybody who's talking knows are stories secondhand from other people. Right. Like, you're not. I have heard very few people talking that have actually met and talked to the man. So like, everybody's just throwing around wild opinions based upon what somebody else told them. So I just don't know why. It's a little silly to say, Will Herring, you've never met him. How can you say anything about him when you've never met him and you're saying a bunch of stuff about him? Sure. So like, I think both of you should probably stop talking then. If that's your criteria for having an opinion, then you probably should stop short of having an opinion then. But you set the criteria when you said that. So again, I think you're allowed to have one. But if that's your criteria for opinions, I don't know that you can have one in that situation. Like, I don't have an opinion about Will Herring as a person. I've never met him. Right. I know what he looked like in that video, and he looked sleepy.
Disheveled. Thomas Lewis, are we trying to talk ourselves out of Hugh Freeze the way we talked ourselves into Brian Harsin? Interesting.
Who is we in this scenario?
Right. Well, I think generally speaking.
I didn't have to talk myself into Brian Harsin, so let me be clear about
that. I just wanted to give him a chance.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was hired. I tried to look for situations that, okay, this is where this would make sense. Here's the things. And then guess what I did? Speaking of talking to a person, I went and actually had a conversation with him so I could make my own opinions about who I thought the person was. So I don't know. I kind of tend to make that a situation with everybody except Jimbo Fisher. I don't ever need to talk to him.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, because I don't really care what kind of person Jimbo is. I just know he's a trash coach.
Let me say this, and I think this is a conversation that should be had. It's about whether people will be able to separate the person from the professional in this particular situation. Now, let me tell you something, guys. Kobe Bryant was beloved by a lot of people. Yeah. Like, I personally think he's a jerk. He had his bodyguard throw me out of the way to avoid give me an autograph way back in 2007. You hear stories about people who are famous all the time, right? Like, they're really good at what they do, but they're jerks. absolutely terrible. Right. I wonder if people will be able to separate the person from the professional and say, hey, listen, uh, uh, I think it's one of those things where it's a catch-22. Look, I feel like to me, athletes are not role models, but they are role models, right? Like if I'm a parent, I don't want an athlete influencing my kid unless my views align with theirs. So, but whether I like it or not, though they are influencing the masses through social media and things of that nature. So, again, will people be able to say, hey, as a coach, I'm rooting for him, but as a role model, not so much. Like, as the person, I don't care for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little different when they are a coach, right? Because part of their job is mentorship. So
That's
who they
fair.
are personally does matter. But I've been trying so hard not to get into this conversation because I think I have a very controversial take when it comes to this. And it sounds as if I'm defending whenever I make a statement in support of any person. But I just think that some of the stuff that people are saying isn't exactly accurate. And so it makes it worse than what it seems like it is. And so making a character evaluation of a person based upon inaccurate information is a little unfair. And
Mhm.
so if you want to have a conversation with me about that, I would be glad to have a separate conversation at a different time than this about that, how I feel about that.
Makes me wonder who's going to be bold enough to ask the tough questions at this introductory press conference. You made this hire, so you had to know those questions were coming.
Yeah.
And the media is definitely not going to handle him with kid gloves as it pertains to that.
And I think he's earned that. He's earned scrutiny.
Yeah, you need to be able
Yeah.
to stand there and explain yourself.
Right.
Yeah. I think if you're going to get the opportunity, this is the type of scrutiny that comes with it when you're going to be paid probably $6 million a year. Tony Allen, what do y'all think Hugh's salary will be? Well, I think a penny over 6 is too much. The market is moving.
Well, Uzi just said that the contract is 6 years, 6.5 million. But I don't know how accurate that is.
Yeah,
So Pete Thamel. So
that's not
Pete Thamel
terrible.
says that, excuse me.
But yeah, I mean, the market has moved. Like the baseline for SEC head coaches has definitely gone up, certainly. But 6.5 is about 4 million less than what they were going to have to pay Lane, if not more. And so spend that on decent coordinators, and do what you can to continue to move the program forward. Travis Whitehead, show me one Ole Miss coach that has an elite record. You can't. Auburn can make people winners. Tubbs, Chiz, Gus, even Harsin was an outlier. I agree with this. Harsin was an outlier,
and I agree with that. I mean, I think Tubbs left Ole Miss 6-5 the season before he came here. It's really different. Different places are different. It's hard to make it a 1-for-1 comparison. Record before and then record here. The only accurate comparison is who this person is, because that's their record, was Gus, because he was actually here, averaging 8 wins a season, and that's just not what we wanted.
Right. So, guys, if you're just joining us, we are live. Auburn is set to hire Hugh Freeze as head coach. That announcement should be coming shortly, I would assume. But the national media has picked up the story, and they are reporting. If you're here with us and you can't chat, it's because you haven't hit that subscribe button. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can join the conversation. If you want to go a step further and you want to join us here at the War Report and supporting the work that we're doing, $5.99 a month, hit that join button on the YouTube front page to become a patron and continue to support the War Report. This is going to be really interesting, I think, moving forward here. Again, this introductory press conference is going to be made for TV. I think it's going to be widely covered. And if you're Cohen, I'll be interested to see what kind of tone he has, whether he feels like he has to justify why this hire was made.
Right.
What was the search process like? Because in the past we've had committees, right? Was this solely his decision? Did he confer with the president? And then, what was the conversation with Hugh like, when you decided to make this hire?
Right.
Were there any assurances given about behavior, about staying on the straight and narrow? And what was it that you heard that convinced you that this would be a good idea? All those questions I feel like are fair and bounds and need to be answered based on what's going on.
So I think it's going to be interesting, though. Like when they have the presser, are they going to pause and let people ask the AD questions and then announce Hugh and let him come up and then let them ask Hugh questions? Like, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that works, because I think there are questions for both parts of this that people are going to want to know.
Right,
Man,
right.
it's got me wondering, do you think they try to restrict questions beforehand?
I mean, if they do, I don't think that that's fair. Like, you opened the door
either.
for this. Like,
Right.
what do you want people to do? Not ask questions when there's
Right.
definite things that need to get answered here, and a press release isn't going to do it.
Right. Listen, the community spoke up. The community spoke up on this one, so you had to know these questions were coming. Again, I think that is fair. We'll see how they handle it. Our guy Cam says Hugh and Robbie season. Again, I think this is probably the most exciting thing about this hire is, again, his work with quarterbacks. And the SEC, it feels like when you have a dynamic quarterback, it covers a multitude of sins. And, Robbie certainly did that for us this year with his legs. So if he can get it going with his arm, people will be excited to see what that looks like under Hugh Freeze. Johnny B, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe they ever proved Freeze did anything wrong. Now I'm excited to put the side conversation away and focus on football.
So no, this is not true. They definitely
the
escort thing 100% was so how I understand how the thing went. So, and again, this is going to sound like I'm defending Hugh Freeze, and I'm just on the side of factual things. All right. So this is all I'm doing is stating the facts of what happened. You are welcome to draw any conclusion you want from those facts. I'm not telling you what conclusion to draw. Is that fair for me to do before I start talking? To say, I'm just going to tell you the facts of what happened. You can draw whatever conclusions you want. All right. Because I'm not telling you what conclusion to draw. All right. Fact number one. And trust me, since I heard it was Hugh Freeze, I've been exhaustively trying to find the facts on this stuff. Apparently, what happened in the whole escort situation when he was at Ole Miss is every coach, regardless of where you are at a major program, at least, you have two phones. You have your personal phone and you have your university phone. It was common knowledge amongst the time when Hugh Freeze got his coaching job that coaches who wanted to live on the risque side used a particular escort service for their whatever, right? For whatever little whims they wanted to go on, there's a particular escort service that was being used. Hugh Freeze, being the intelligent man that he is, unintentionally mixed up which phone he called the escort service from.
Rookie mistake, rookie move.
So the call apparently only lasted like 3 seconds, and he was
ain't got no side chicks.
Wrong phone.
You ain't never make that mistake, Mike. You keep it straight.
Yeah, no side chicks.
He called from the wrong phone. He was like, "Oh,
Pre-game
shoot,
is
wrong
weak."
one." And then he picks up his so when the investigation came down about what was happening, they subpoenaed the records of his university phone, and they saw that number listed, and they were like, okay, it wasn't a long enough call, which made them go subpoena the records from his personal phone. And that's when they found he had been calling escorts. But for clarity, he never called them for players. That's the thing that keeps getting put out here, that he was calling them for players. He actually was doing it for himself. And
selfish.
Yes, he was selfish. That's funny. Yes, he was cheating on his wife with an escort.
That's another reason we should hire him. It's selfish.
So
ain't no fun
again, I'm not
home.
telling you what conclusions to draw. I'm just saying people keep saying he was calling escorts for players. That's not true. So yes, infidelity, calling an escort, factual things. Calling them for players, not facts. All right. So that's fact number one I want to dispute. And again, draw your own conclusions from those facts. Right. Fact number two that has been distorted or is being told improperly. The whole situation with him DMing this young lady on Twitter. What people keep saying happened is he DM'd this young lady to get her to not talk about her sexual assault case. That's actually not what happened. He DM'd this young lady to ask her, or to tell her, the guy that you're bringing into this, naming in this, didn't have anything to do with this.
Right.
Like, can you stop bringing up his name because he's not involved? He didn't tell her, don't talk about your sexual assault. He said, hey, the guy you're slandering here,
He
actually
said he's
know
a good
him.
guy.
Yeah,
he said
I
he's a good
actually
guy.
know him, and he's a good guy. Like, you're putting his name out there improperly. So he didn't say, don't talk about your sexual assault or like trying to silence her. He was just like, just stop slandering this other dude who's not related to that. Right. And so again, draw whatever conclusions you want to from that. And you can say, well, he should have never been talking to her in the first place. That's fine. I'm just saying, when you talk about it in the proper context so that you're not out here parroting improper narratives. Again, draw whatever conclusions you want to, though. Then there's a third one that I'm not going to go into, but I have facts on that one as well. But continue. Go ahead.
I will add that allegedly the DM that we saw was not the only DM that was sent.
And that's where I have to stop and say, I don't know what else he said to this young man.
Right. Yeah, there were over 20
that's the only
DMs,
one that she's put out there. And the only one I've seen, I was like, well,
yeah, it's part of
not saying what y'all are saying he's saying.
Yeah, what I believe happened here was maybe that DM was released prematurely and the rest were held back because it is part of an ongoing investigation into the university. So lawyers will always tell you, zip it. Yeah,
even, but the fact that it's a part of an ongoing investigation and it didn't stop the hire leads me to believe that if due diligence was done, it's not going anywhere.
You would hope. But man.
Yeah, I would hope. But again, I'm looking at what I know from our compliance department and what I know from what we've already stated about the tendency for there to be a heavy-handed dealing with Auburn, that they wouldn't say to themselves, you got this pending case, you're probably about to get nailed to the wall, but we're going to hire you anyway, because they just didn't do that with an offensive coordinator last year.
Yeah, for sure. Jazzy Joe says, got to get some sleep, y'all. Finally back on the road after 3 weeks off. Appreciate y'all. Hashtag get your weight up. Ride for the brand. The Iceman cometh. Our guy Ryan Brown, appreciate this. Ryan says he's definitely not a unifying hire. Winning could fix that. Great ball coach, but at what cost? I'm disappointed we didn't get someone less controversial. Now, this is a sentiment that I will echo. I'm disappointed. I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed that we're not in a better place where we could have made a better hire.
Yeah.
Someone who didn't come with baggage, somebody a little bit more proven in terms of actually winning something. And when I say something, I mean championships. And but we've got to work our way to that point. So will Hugh Freeze put himself in that category here at Auburn? TBD. But we'll see how it goes. We've been on here for an hour and 22 minutes. Almost 900 of you guys in here with us randomly on a Monday to talk about Auburn choosing to hire Hugh Freeze as the next coach. We're awaiting a statement from the university on the hire. They have not released anything to my knowledge yet. But once they do, we will bring it to you either here or if you follow us on Twitter at The War Report, Brian will be putting out any information pertinent to this hire that you guys need. We also will be posting the actual press conference here on YouTube. If you want to go back and watch it, we post all press conferences here on the channel so you guys can hear for yourselves and not be told. Kind of, wrapping up here, guys. So this press conference is going to happen. They're going to introduce Hugh Freeze. And, where does Auburn need to finish in recruiting, I think? Where realistically can he finish in recruiting, given that signing day is coming and, he's got not a lot of time to pull something together. It's not in a bad place, but, where do they top out? What's the peak of this recruiting class?
I think the peak is 9.
Where did we finish last year?
25.
Yeah, we got to finish higher.
Brooks.
We got to finish higher. We got to finish in top 20 then. And we're currently where, like 50 something, 40 something,
38.
Yeah.
38. Oh, he could actually do that then.
Yeah.
He signed a couple of 5. Yeah. We
signed 2 5-stars and then we're top 15 instantly.
Yeah, top 20, top 15. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just to be accurate here, in 2022, Auburn finished 21st in recruiting.
Oh no, he's got to be top 15 then. He's got to be top 15.
Oh, okay. All right. Top 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see if you can pull that off. So what scares me
if we're at 32 right now, Harsin started in the 40s and finished at 21. But I'm saying where he came in, we're at 38, but still, I'm saying
38, yeah.
Harsin started in the 40s and he got us up to almost a 20. Yeah, top 15.
Okay, all right. CM Pat says, so what scares me is that the Harsin hoax could really, really be bad if they try it with Hugh, given he actually has a history. I read a funny tweet today that said, so y'all made up affair rumors to get Harsin out of here, and then turned around and hire a guy who actually had an affair. That is peak Auburn. Agreed.
That is very weird.
This is a controversial hire, no matter how you stack it. Our guy John says, "Will Hugh sign my Grateful Dead AU T-shirt?"
So this goes into story number 3, but we can talk about that another time. I understand what he's saying here. You haven't? This goes back to his time as being at a high school where he was in it. He was there, and apparently there was a young lady who had a Grateful Dead shirt on at school, which was against their dress code policy. It's a Christian school. And he said that she needed to change out of that shirt because it violated their policy. And she's like, all right, well, cool. I'm going to go run to the bathroom and change shirts. He's like, no, you're going to change right here.
Right here.
So he made her change the shirt right there. Now, she admits herself in the story. This is the part, again, I know it sounds like I'm defending Hugh Freeze. I just want it to be fully factual. She admits herself she went into the corner of the room and it wasn't anything sexual, but she did. But he wanted to make sure he got the shirt from her before she left. He's like, nope, you're going to put this shirt on. You're going to give me that shirt back.
Right.
And as you hear the story reported, you make it seem like he was like at a strip club tossing dollars at the young lady. Like that's not what happened. Yeah. But again, is it a what I will say 100%, Hugh Freeze does not seem like the most intelligent man in the world. Like he does stuff where you're like, bro, come on. Are you
Thanks you for doing the interview for us.
Yeah, I know. I know it stops me from getting the interview. I'm just saying I'm being for real though. Like it just like, bro, are you being for real right now?
Yeah. And that was my issue because I understood it differently. And then Ike was like, well, here are the facts. I was like, huh. Now, one thing I will say with this, even if there are a bunch of, hey, this sounds bad, but it's not as terrible as it sounds. Why are you in a position where you have several it sounds bad situations?
Yeah. Like
good judgment keeps you from doing any of these things.
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, especially when you're talking about somebody who has an opportunity to be influential in a lot of young men's lives, right?
So, here's the thing: I see people saying it's inappropriate. It's only inappropriate if you're imagining it in an inappropriate way. If he's sitting there like across the room ogling her while she's changing into the shirt, yes, it's inappropriate. If he turns his back and she's in the corner of the room, it's not inappropriate. Like again, I wasn't there. The young lady said nothing sexual was about it. Like she said she didn't feel like it was sexual. So I'm supposed to
or he didn't do anything sexual.
Well, no, she said it was nothing. It was the scenario did not feel sexual to her. I can go back and find the quote from the article. Okay. But again, I'm supposed to take your perception of what it is over the young lady who was actually there.
Yeah, I don't know. To me,
I wouldn't have done it. I'm not telling you I would have been like, hey, yeah, man, go on, change out of this shirt. I'm waiting. But anyway,
again, to me, but you're putting yourself in a situation unnecessarily.
Right. And that's the bigger issue for me. Is like you have to stop making bad judgment decisions that even place you in a position where somebody can think. Right. If I gotta preach for a minute, in the Bible, it definitely says flee from the appearance of evil. Mm-hmm. Like you don't even want to make it appear as if you had done anything. And that's the issue for me with Hugh Freeze is that the appearance of evil has been persistent through. And it's not whether or not he did anything wrong. It's that it's so subjective so often that people have been allowed to make their own narratives about you. But you placed yourself in those scenarios.
Right. So, yeah. Right. Yeah. I just, again, at some point you are what you repeatedly do. Right. So if you keep doing the same stuff and people call you that, you earn that. So that pattern of behavior will have to change as Auburn's head coach because the spotlight will be on him. Yeah. And I'm sure I hope that conversation was had because I hope the people who were in charge of the decision didn't have a lackadaisical attitude about like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Laura, I didn't see anything wrong with that. No, there's tons of wrong with that. Not only from a more moral standpoint, but also, just from a judgment standpoint.
Right.
Exercising good judgment is important in every aspect of life, but especially when you're in the public eye and everything you do is going to be under the microscope. So, you can't hide from the things you do when you're a head coach in an SEC program. Right. So many coaches have found that out over the years, where they thought their creep game was tight, just to find out it was not. And there's always somebody digging, and there's always somebody looking. In this day and age, even with technology and social media, you can't like a tweet without 10 people retweeting. Look what Mike liked, right? So,
exactly.
Hopefully he's smart enough to understand that. But not just to stay out of trouble, but hopefully whatever character things led to those bad decisions, he's changed and realizes that there was a change that needed to be made. Right. So I said it yesterday when we talked about this, guys, like, changing who you are is hard to do.
Right.
It's really difficult to do. So, yes, we can forgive you for past mistakes, but forgiveness does not always mean absolution. So if you embezzle money from me, I can forgive you. It doesn't mean I'm going to let you do my taxes next year.
Right.
Right. And so there's a segment of the fan base who feel like this is not about forgiveness. Right. You're asking a certain fan base that feels very strongly about some of these things for absolution, and he's not owed that. Nobody is owed absolution at all. Guys, Mike says, give him a chance. He's got it. He's got it.
Oh, he's got the chance,
listen,
whether we like it or not.
The fan base doesn't have to necessarily give him a chance.
Yeah. Like, listen, if he wins games, a lot of this will start to fade if he wins games and he keeps his hands clean. Right. I just want to see if they're going to address these things head on, or are they going to pretend like it's a non-issue. And I think the good thing to do would be to address this head on. Right. And say, they need to have a plan. We're about to find out how good those PR people are in a second. Malcolm, serious question. Is Freeze comparable to Gus? I always considered him Gus's little brother. I think the similarities in their offenses is what draws this comparison. I what do you think about this? Like,
no.
I
mean, I don't. Hugh Freeze. So, okay. Lord have mercy. Y'all gonna make me talk about Gus again. I saw somebody in the comments asked, did we miss Gus? No. My issue with Gus was his inability or unwillingness to adapt. I don't see that in Hugh Freeze.
Okay.
Did Gus have a better record than Hugh Freeze while he was in the SEC? Absolutely. But Gus was at a better program than Hugh Freeze while he was in the SEC as well. So again, we've already kind of addressed that. I think Hugh Freeze is who he is. He is an offensive guru like Gus was considered to be. I just actually think Hugh Freeze is really an offensive guru, and Gus was an offensive innovator that couldn't continue to innovate. So, no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got Joe Kyle says, a great how. Thanks, guys, for jumping on the news. Messed up the first part of that there, so I didn't read that correctly, but love Joe Kyle. He's a great subscriber and commenter, prolific commenter here at the War Report. AU Camel, Freeze is comparable to Mike Price. Speaking of the Hooker thing, because he did the same. I think he used his company credit card at the strip club.
Right.
Yeah. So he would have stepped further. He was there, and he just said they probably won't check the bill. And used it. Except for he's going to actually, or hopefully, get to coach a game at Auburn. Cohen did say his main points were X's and O's, recruiting, and fit. Thank you for this comment, Morgan. Fit is interesting. I think is a very subjective word as well, too. So the media will be all over him at the introductory press conference about that. I can't wait to see what they have to say there. Guys, if you're just joining us, Auburn is set to hire Hugh Freeze as head coach. I'm here with Ike Jones and B. Will to talk about it. You guys have been great, dropping super chats and being here and supporting the work. If you want to go a step further and support the work that we're doing, become a patron member. $5.99 a month will get you there. Help support the work that we're doing. We're approaching 1,000 people on this live. If you all became members, the world would definitely be a better place for every patron member that signs up. A puppy is saved somewhere in the world. So if you care about puppies, Become a member of the War Report. We're doing the Lord's work over here, definitely. In conclusion, we're over an hour and a half here talking about this. Was waiting to see if any other details will come out. Somebody kind of tentatively reported that the number is around $6.5 million a year. If that's
6.5 a year.
Yeah, if that's true, I want to see the buyout clause as well too. I want to see if there is a morality clause. Ike, you're muted. I want to see if there's a
morality. My son anyway, but there's a morality clause in everybody's contract. So
yeah. They put a little sauce on his, I'm sure, just to insulate themselves in case he does anything that will get them out of paying him a buyout should he cross certain lines. But are we comfortable with this number at $6.5 million? Is that too much for Hugh Freeze?
That's right about where I expected any coach's hire to be. Like, I just don't know how you pay less than that for it's not so much about who Hugh Freeze is about what the role is, which is head coach at Auburn University.
Right.
So
Mark Stoops making $8 million to lose to Vanderbilt. So yeah.
Right. It's $8 million, really?
Yeah. Apparently they had tendered him an extension the week or 2 weeks before the Vanderbilt loss, and he just didn't sign it until after the Vanderbilt loss. He was like, "Man, let me sign this."
No, can't take it back. I signed it already.
Change your mind. Let me go ahead.
No, takes you back.
That's
funny. Listen, he had 58 points, and there are going to be some, I think, questions about those points. Definitely, when it comes to, hey, how many points did he check on your box, and what were those points? You said there were 58 points. That might be a question that I ask. Hey, you said you had 58 points for a head coach. Give us the top 10. And did he check all those boxes?
Can you start before December? 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 Now that's 5. Now, like I got 53 more. Hold on. Do you want this job? Do you want this job? Do you want this job? Are you keeping Caddy? Are you keeping Caddy? Are you keeping so on and so on until he got to 58? That's how I went.
Okay, all right. Interesting comment here from Cody Smith. Bo Nix has a baby that his daddy pays his baby mama to stay. No one said nothing about that. Okay, all right. Good for Bo.
I don't know nothing about Bo Nix and his baby situations. I don't know even what that has to do with Hugh Freeze. But
yeah, only thing I know about Bo is he's not going to the Pac-12 title game. Cody Smith pays to stay away. My bad on the typos. All good, Cody. Paid $2 to correct himself to make sure that we saw it. We appreciate that as well too. Want to thank Michael Carlisle for getting himself a green name and becoming a member of the War Report.
Welcome, Michael. Welcome.
We really appreciate that.
Top shenanigans going on right now. It's not always.
It's going to be an interesting month. The real party starts now. The season's over. Yeah. The party starts for Auburn. Auburn is likely to make a bowl game, so we're going to have some more game coverage for you guys.
Did you guys hear who we potentially would be playing in the bowl game?
It was in Tampa. It was a Tampa Bowl game that I saw they were projecting us for.
Nah, the most recent one has been the Birmingham Bowl against UCF.
No way.
I am not
the worst possible bowl. We're technically not even eligible.
Whatever
for
you wrote, they're trolling. That's a troll.
They are trolling.
That's trolling.
We need to hire T. Will away before. Tell us everything, T. Will.
That's a troll. Can you imagine?
Oh my god. I actually would be juicy.
I'm going.
We hired T. Will before the bowl.
Take the defensive coordinator before the bowl game.
Wow.
Yes, that would be an all-time super BD move. Anita Lawson, super sticker. We appreciate that. If there is a comment that goes along with this, please
I tagged it.
Drop it. There. Oh, is it? Okay. Yep. Let me jump to our comment. Lane would have been 10 million. I think Lane might have been somewhere between 10 and 11 for sure.
Which is
so.
Wow.
Yeah, you need that money to spend on assistants, I think, to bring in for Hugh. And they're going to have to go out and find some good coordinators. Cody Smith, if we get UCF, we beat them by 30. I certainly hope so.
Can they stop the run?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Lawrence Robson said, I heard Baylor and the Liberty Bowl. Interesting.
I wouldn't want to play Dave Aranda either. He's a good coach. And we're not a great team. I don't like this. I don't like the way it's shaping up.
Right. Anthony Grant says Gus possibly beating Auburn. Welcome to the multiverse.
He
Love
did that plenty of
comment.
times before he left, so we good. He's good at that.
Oh my goodness! Wow. So, yes, this will be very interesting to see. God, I hope we don't play UCF. That is a storyline I don't want to see, and mostly because their fans are really obnoxious on Twitter.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know. Not even it's our fans who are going to be like, "See, we should have kept Gus." That I don't want to hear.
Oh
at
man,
all.
Right.
Yeah.
At all.
So, but
listen, if Navy can never throw the ball and beat them, then Auburn damn sure.
Auburn can do it. Yeah,
Especially with what they've shown in the last few weeks. We
for
should,
sure.
be
Yeah.
able to move the ball and possess it.
Yeah,
Sure.
with their quarterback, with Robbie and our running backs, yeah, they should be able to do the same, if not worse. You would think, if you think about it. Just getting back into some more chats. You guys are coming with the super chats. We appreciate it. Aaron Finney just wasn't that big on Lane. Happy about Freeze. Like, honestly, I won't say I was big, but I was at least a little positive about anybody who was going to be good with quarterbacks. Anybody who could tutor a quarterback and develop a quarterback was going to be a change for Auburn. So that was the only thing that I was looking forward to, maybe with Lane, but again, possibly with Hugh Freeze. Cody Smith, Gus, what the biggest bust? Let be real.
I think he meant was the biggest bust.
He was. I don't know about the biggest.
Nah, he wasn't the biggest bust. He was. So I think he was the most. He had a lot of time to earn this title, but the most habitual underachiever, because he consistently had talent that he misevaluated and used, and he consistently had high expectations that he did not live up to.
Right.
Except for Son's 2 seasons, he just didn't live up to the expectations based upon the talent that he had, and so it was disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. I think relative to the amount of talent that Gus brought in, like Ike said, it was just disappointing where they finished. We actually charted out how many times Auburn started ranked and finished unranked. It was like 3 out of the 8 years. And, there were a lot of times where there were at least 3 years where they started in the top 10 and finished unranked. So it was just, it's going to be hard. I think this is going to be hard for a lot of people if we got to play them. So I don't want to do that. Going back here, Lawrence Robinson says, I say Gus over Cheese in 4 seasons, honestly. I don't know, man. I don't know if he overachieved.
His first season probably was overachieving.
Year 1, he overachieved.
Listen, without some miracle finishes, like, we don't get to that national title game. So that was overachievement. Getting to the SEC title game the year that we did with Kerryon Johnson and Jared Stidham, I mean, we legitimately beat Bama and Georgia in both of those games. Georgia helped us out a lot with a very uncharacteristically poor performance by their offense. I don't know what other 2 seasons you're saying we overachieved in, though.
Yeah. Tony Baker says projected to play the Kansas Jayhawks in the Liberty Bowl.
That'd be an interesting matchup.
Where's the Liberty Bowl held? Is that in Louisiana?
Probably. I just would have guessed it'd be Philadelphia,
Tennessee?
But I don't know.
Maybe it is. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, chat, help us out here. Let us know where the Liberty Bowl is at.
It ain't here in Birmingham, so.
Cody Smith, because he has 3 to 4 natty title win teams. I think that's it. Seems like there's more to that.
Is that about Gus and his underachieving? Is it because he had 3 to 4? You're saying that we had the potential to win 3 to 4 national titles?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Again, don't get me started. We had 3 to 4 national title defenses, not teams.
Okay,
we had 3 to 4 defenses that could have won national titles.
2019 was a championship defense for sure. 2019 was a decent deep. That was one of the best defenses I've ever seen.
Yeah, Memphis. People are saying in the chat is where the Liberty Bowl is.
Memphis. Okay. All right. That's not bad. I am Hop with the talent Gus had in 14, 16, 17, and probably 18. There should be at least another SEC championship. I wouldn't argue with that. 17 was probably the most disappointing. Right, like. You beat 2 number ones
I mean,
in back-to-back weeks.
I didn't feel like there was any shot for us to win that championship game, man.
In 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We blew them out, and then they came back with a better game plan in the SEC championship.
Which is
game.
why I was like, "Oh, this requires us to adjust. We're gonna lose."
Yeah, if Georgia wasn't on our schedule, and our first time seeing them was the SEC championship game, then yeah. But you're not gonna beat a defensive coordinator that good that actually has talent. Not like that the second time around. I was again down on our chances like you. Like it was just doing that twice is crazy.
Yep. Cody Smith says 2013, 2014, 2017.
I want to remind y'all the 2014 defense was like historically bad for us at the time. This is one of the reasons they had to part ways with Ellis Johnson and go pay really top dollar at the time for Will Muschamp, who had just gotten fired from South Carolina, who, based on how he looked when you saw him, he didn't even really want to be here. He got here as soon as possible. Or excuse me, he had just gotten fired from Florida. Excuse me. I don't think 2014 was a year that we could have won anything. Nick Marshall in that offense, could we put up points? Sure. But do y'all remember what Melvin Gordon
somebody
did
tell
to
Tim
us?
Brando to stop tweeting, bro.
Melvin Gordon was a monster.
Put up like almost 300 yards on us in the bowl game.
Insane.
Our run defense was so bad in 2014. That was not a national championship winning team. It was a national championship winning offense, not defense.
Wow. It's a weird side note, but like I was actually in the Chargers locker room when Melvin Gordon met Phillip Rivers for the first time. I was hanging out with King. He had to go pick something up from the Chargers thing. And I'm telling that dude was a monster. He was an absolute monster. So what he did to us was not a fluke, super talented guy. Guys, you're joining us. Auburn has decided to hire Hugh Freeze as head coach. So we're here covering it. We're awaiting an official statement by the university on this hire. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting things we've seen come out of Auburn is the new AD Cohen giving a ringing endorsement of Hugh Freeze as a head coach. It's been reported that the president and AD received over 10,000 emails from concerned fans and alumni alike in opposition of this hire. Some other interesting things happened on social media. So Auburn is going to make a statement here either tonight or tomorrow, followed by a press conference.
You know what, though? I wonder how many emails they got in support of Hugh Freeze. Like, there's a lot of people who are like very supportive of this hire. Like, got a ton of people who are not in support of. I wonder.
We see the split right here in our chat. I mean, there's just as many for as against, and I'm with you. I wonder what.
I think sometimes negative emotion trumps positive when this happens. So people
1,000%. That's what people are going to focus on.
Yeah. So like people who are going to oppose this hire are more likely to send emails than people who are for the hire, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%.
Right. So it's a possibility they didn't get anywhere near as many support emails as
I don't think it would have been comparable. Yeah, because negative emotions always gonna fuel people way more than positivity will.
So we'll see how that goes. Again,
listen, man, all the stuff that goes viral for us on Twitter is all the stuff when people hate everything we say. We say something that they like, they don't care nothing about it. If you hate something we say, then everybody want to go and run and tell us how stupid they feel like we are. So.
Oh my goodness, Mike G will say, I think Bo could play better. And then the headline is on Twitter is Mike G hates white people. I'm like, wait, what? What happened? So people like to take what they want from it. At the end of the day, this is going to be about results on the field. I think it's going to be about keeping his hands clean and results on the field. Can he produce an 8-win season maybe in year one? The team is close to that. I think the Caddy proved that this team is close to that. So for the 6.5 a year, people are going to be expecting. Listen, what are the chances that Hugh Freeze overachieves and they renegotiate his contract early extensions? We did it with Gus.
I hope not. I mean, when you say over, well, so let's talk about this 6-year contract. When you say early extension, you talking about after year 3?
Sure.
3. Yeah, after year 3. I mean, but when we talk about overachieve, what has he done? Right.
Let's say SEC West title in the first 3 years. Oh yeah, not even the championship.
They'll re-up him, extend him for a year or 2, and give him some more money because they got him cheap. So if he gets you to an SEC West title, which is more than what his predecessor did and more than what we've been to since 2017, then yeah, you're going to extend him and give him more money because he's going to have, if he does that, that means, so listen, you have to think about this. That means within the next 3 years, he would have had a better record that season than Nick Saban, Brian Kelly, and the $10 million man Jimbo. He would have beaten those 3 historically good coaches as far as what people consider a coaching pedigree. Lane Kiffin, he would have beat him out. There's some really big name coaches that he would have had beat to an SEC West title, some of which probably would not have gotten an SEC West title yet if we're talking about somebody like Lane Kiffin or what's the dude's in Mississippi State? Well, I don't know why his name's not
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach, right? Like, I don't know that either of those guys in the next couple of years are going to win a West title. So he would have beaten all of those guys to a title. Yeah, they'll extend him and up his pay.
Okay. All right. I Am Hop says 2014 had at least 7 guys who played in the NFL on defense. Yeah, we've had some pretty good defenses over the years. Yeah. Cody Smith, how fun is that Cal game going to be next year?
So that's who are out of conference.
That's right. That's right. I remember that.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Auburn has not shied away from marquee
Chip
power
Kelly's at
opponents.
UCLA. Who's the Cal coach right
now? Is it Sonny Dykes still?
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting.
I don't know.
Maybe.
They were terrible this year, by the way. They won like 2 or 3 games.
That means they'll be amazing next year when we play them. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Look, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap almost 1,000 of you guys in here with us randomly on a Monday to talk about the breaking news. Auburn to hire Hugh Freeze as head coach. We'll be follow us on Twitter at the War Report. We'll be putting out information as we get it. And we'll also be bringing you guys the press conference as well to hear from A.D. Cohen and for him to tell people what his reasoning was behind this hire. Got one more super chat here. At the end of the day, we have an experienced offensive head coach not named Gus or Brian.
And what is wrong with the name Brian for a head coach? I'll tell you.
Yeah, she spells it like you too, so you can't even get out of that.
I'm saying.
Philip says Dykes is at TCU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dykes is at TCU. So,
I don't know who's Cal's head coach is then. I have no idea.
Who cares?
Yeah,
they lose.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, hope we beat them. Yeah. All right, guys, that's it. I want to thank everybody for joining us for this War Report special. We'll be back on Wednesday with our midweek report as regularly scheduled. And if there's any breaking news, we'll be back with another random live to cover news as it breaks. So if Hugh Freeze has been hired, if somehow he gets fired before Wednesday, we'll be back before Wednesday to talk about the firing. He can keep his hands clean for 48 hours. But thanks to everybody. We'll catch you guys next time. War Eagle.
Peace.
War Eagle.